Now, NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Witting.
Welcome to NDE Radio with Lee Witting, whether you're listening on TalkZone, by podcast, through the archives of our ad-free shows on our YouTube channel, or connected through the incredible content of our Facebook page. Our guest today, Mira Sai, was born to a prosperous family in New Delhi, India. She was a different person then, named Arti, and benefited from an excellent education in a Catholic convent school run by British nuns. She went on to a philosophy major at Lady Shri Ram College and later studied world religions in the U.S. At the same time, encounters with the famous Indian guru Sai Baba began her preparation for the conversion that an NDE would soon facilitate. Meanwhile, a visit to New York in 1973 led to her becoming the CEO of her own wholesale business at the young age of 23, manufacturing and importing her own label of designer clothing from India for Macy's and other major U.S. retail stores. Following that, she became a successful financial advisor to the Indian community in Northern California. In 1994, while driving her 560 SL Mercedes convertible, an accident suddenly catapulted her into her life-transforming, soul-exchanging NDE. After her recovery, she abandoned her materialistic life for Sai Baba's ashram in Puttaparthi, India, where she stayed for 5 years, delving deep into her new bliss-filled being. Mira is the author of a book of spiritual poetry entitled Ecstasy, which literally means standing inside oneself. The state of ecstasy is that state of nirvana where one recognizes the void, the absolute reality that everything is nothing. Ecstasy is samadhi, the highest state of meditation in which a person experiences oneness with the universe. Mira Sai, welcome to NDE Radio.
Thank you, Lee. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. I'm so looking forward to this. Tell me about your growing up in New Delhi.
Growing up in New Delhi. Well, I by the grace of God, I come from wealthy parents, and I went to a Catholic school, Convent of Jesus and Mary, and then I went to boarding school in the mountains for 2 years, Waverly. And these schools were like, the very, very elitist schools of India, and British nuns. So, we had to mind our P's and T's and all that. So it was basically that. Then, of course, I went to college it's called Lady Shri Ram College. It's a very, very good college. And I did philosophy. My major was in philosophy. Mm-hmm. I kind of come from my great grandfather was the he's called the Raj Diwan of Alwar, a city in Rajasthan, which is more like the royal prime minister kind of thing to the king, when in those years in the 1940s. Yes. So that was like Delhi, and growing up in Delhi, I was always very different. I wasn't like your normal children, I was very, very Western while growing up because my father was very Western oriented. My mother was quite Indian oriented, but my father was very Western oriented. So they had gone to, in fact, they went to Europe for a vacation with the other family members, and they asked me what I wanted. And I said, well, I just get me some music. And what they got me was, that's how I got introduced to Leonard Cohen, to Joan Baez, to Bob Dylan, to Jimi Hendrix.
All my favorites.
Yes, I mean, it was amazing. My entire music world just kind of, it was beautiful. So, so I had like I said, a very Western growing up. But then, when I met my spiritual master, Sai Baba, I also many miracles happened with me. And so when I met with him, I also learned, the richness of the Indian heritage, and what I had learned in philosophy in college, kind of also came together nicely for me, because I attended a summer course at the ashram there for a few weeks, and it kind of changed my life, because I started to, appreciate Western and Indian culture both, and it was I was blending in very nicely with both of them.
Yes. Did the Catholic nuns try to convert you to Christianity?
Oh, no. But, I used to go to church. I have my Bible, and, I prayed to Mother Mary. We did the, Our Father who art in heaven, everyday prayer,
Yes.
and so I love Christ. I'm very close to him. I have a very, very strong connect with him, very strong connect.
Yes.
In fact, he's come to me in dreams. And I also have, after my near death, actually, I used to get headaches. And so I went and got an MRI done of my brain. And I have a copy of that MRI. And right in the center of my forehead, in the MRI itself, you can see Christ on the cross.
Really?
It's
Wow.
very amazing. Yes, you can see his hair, his beard, his feet crossed over, the hands out, and even the INRI injury, on the top of the cross. It's all there right here. I still have that MRI, and I can share a picture of it later if anybody wants. Christ is very, very dear to me. Yes. He has come to me in visions and dreams. Yes.
Well, tell us a little about Sai Baba and what he taught you.
Well, Sai Baba is, what he taught was love all, serve all, and help ever, hurt never, basically. These are the two main things, and that, we are all one. And there is, it's like there is only one religion, the religion of love. There is only one caste, the caste of humanity. There is only one language, the language of the heart. And there is only one God, and he's omnipresent. He comes in different colors and shapes and names to different people, just as different cultures enjoy different foods.
Yes.
God comes to different people, different cultures in different flavors. But there is only one. He's only the light. There is only light. Mm-hmm. There is only light. God is light and love. That's all he is. He's just love.
Was Sai Baba Hindu or Buddhist?
Oh, he's no religion. No. He's no religion. There were people from all over the world, all countries that would come there, all over the world, millions and millions and millions of people. And because he taught the universal language of love, basically. What he said, I don't want you to change your religion. He says, if you are a Christian, I want you to be a better Christian. If you're a Muslim, be a better Muslim. If you're a Buddhist, be a better Buddhist, be a better Hindu. You see what I'm saying? Yes. He said, just be a better who you are.
Yeah.
That's it.
How did you find him?
Okay, I will tell you. See, when I was in Waverly Convent, I used to be I would go to the chapel every day, and I would pray to God. And this was when I was 11 years old. When I was 11 years old, I'm sitting in the chapel in the mountains in Waverly, and I'm praying to God, and I'm saying, God, when you came here as Christ, I know I was here. I don't know who I was, but I was here. And I felt the same way about Krishna. Krishna is one of the Indian gods. And I said, Krishna, when you were here, I was here then too. I remember it, but I don't know who I was. And then I said, God, wherever you are, even if you're in the ether, wherever you are, just call me, please call me. Wherever you are, call me. I used to pray to God to call me in this lifetime, wherever he is. And the other thing I prayed for was, and don't forget to remind my parents to get me my chocolates. So it was God and chocolate as I was growing up.
That
You
sounds
know?
like an 11-year-old.
Yeah. So that's what was happening with me. And actually, I don't know if you want to go into the whole story, but I will just kind of. I had gone to a gathering with my mother. When I was in 1972, she had asked me there's some holy saint coming, and she was going. She's come with me. I said, all right. So I went there, and I sat, and as soon as I heard Sai Baba's voice, something happened to me, and I said, I know this voice. I know this voice. I recognize this voice. This voice is divine. And I kind of I closed my eyes and I just kind of either went into a trance or I went to sleep. I have no idea, but I was woken up by my mother after an hour or so. And she says, you slept through the whole discourse. I said, well, and then something very interesting happened. We were waiting for the chauffeur to come and pick us up, the car, because there were like 100,000 people there, so very crowded. So he was probably stuck in traffic. So while my mother and I were waiting, I kind of I just took a walk. I just wanted to be away and whatever. And I was standing, it was a huge cricket ground. And just to summarize it, I heard the rustle of something, a rustle behind my shoulder. And I turned around and I thought it was an animal or something. And it was a very old woman. She was on the ground. I thought she'd fallen. And so in Hindi, I asked her if I should help her up. And she said, no, take. And I said, take what? She was pointing to the grass and mud, and I couldn't see anything there. I said, take what? And she said, she called it vibhuti. Vibhuti. It's like holy ash. So, I mean, I don't know what vibhuti is. I said, what is vibhuti? She said, like I was asking too many questions. She said, take, hurry up. All right. I didn't want to disturb her. She's an elderly lady, I want to respect her. So I said, all right. And so I'm bending down. I'm like 21 years old at that time. And I'm bent down and I started taking out this mud and grass. And as I took out this mud and grass, I got up to show it to her and there was nobody there.
Wow.
There was no one there. And I was like, where did she go? There's only a grass-filled cricket ground. There's no trees, shrubs, nothing. And so I'm like, I shuddered and I said, oh, what the heck's going on? First, the voice is, going on in my head. I know this voice. Now this thing, where's that lady gone? And then I kind of opened my hands and I almost had a heart attack because when I opened my hands, there was no mud in my hands. There was ash and grass. So I have no idea where the ash came from. I had pulled out mud. And so I was like, I was ready to throw it away. And I said, I better go to my mother. I don't know what's happening. So as I, just started moving towards I hadn't thrown the ash. I just kind of lifted my hand. And from a distance, I saw another lady walking towards me. And I thought, I'm not so crazy. That lady's walking back. And as she came closer, I recognized her. She was the mother of my best friend in school. Her name was Barani Auntie. And I'm like, oh. So my hand just stopped in midair, seeing a familiar face. This lady came to me. And this auntie came and she asked me, what am I doing here all alone? And I told her, oh, we've come to see this, I didn't know his name. She says, oh, Sai Baba. I said, yes, Sai Baba. That's what his name is? He says, yes. And then she comes close to me and she says to me, you know something, beta. Beta means child. You know something? And I whisper back, yes, auntie, what? And she says to me, 3-4 people have found vibhuti in the ground here. And I was like, what? That's the same word, vibhuti, that elderly lady. So I put my head out and I asked her, I said, I showed it to her. And she was like shocked. She was like tears pouring down her eyes. How did you get this? What happened? And I told her everything. I said, I don't know. I said, where did that lady go, auntie? Who was that lady? And what's going on? She says, no, that lady was not no lady. That was Sai Baba. He came in the form of that old lady to give you this vibhuti. I said, what is this vibhuti? She says, eat it. I said, no way. I got it from the ground, So she said, no, eat it. And she ate some. She gave me some. And then she said to me, Sai Baba is a very, very divine being. He is very divine. He has come to help the world to evolve, to help them evolve and go into higher consciousness and to go beyond the body, beyond all. She just told me 2-3 things because I really couldn't understand what was going on at that time. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. That was how I got introduced to him. And then he came to me in a dream about 2 weeks later and said, come to Puttaparthi. 3 times. It was just a voice. It was not him. It was just a voice. And I don't know where it was. And then finally, with a lot of things happening, I finally made it there. And that's how it all started. The journey started with him.
Wow. Now, were you there before your accident, before the NDE?
Oh, yeah. I went in 1972. And the
Wow.
NDE happened in 1994.
Right. So how long were you there the first time?
The first time I was there for about 3 weeks.
And
a lot of miracles happened. A lot of miracles happened on that trip, which it's all in my book. I'm writing an autobiography of the NDE and the before and the after, because before my NDE, and at that time, Sai Baba had called me, and I had gone with my 2 sisters. And so he had called us in and he'd said, go, Swami is with you. And I had no idea, go where? My father was a very wealthy businessman. He had his factories and plastics business and all that. And so he wanted to come to America he'd just started the clothing business. So he brought me in 73. I came with him. And the interesting thing is, when I was sitting in the airplane in America, when I came to New York, when I was leaving, I was crying. And I was looking at America from the airplane and I was saying, it was like the country was calling me. And I was saying, don't worry, I'm coming back. Don't worry. I'm going to tell you the country. It sounds really, and 2 months later, I was back. I was back on a vacation with my sister, and a lot of things happened. That was the time when I became a CEO of my own corporation at the age of 24. I opened my own export-import clothing business. And, the journey started, and it was amazing how, and I went on to have this business. I have Macy's and Saks, Bloomingdale's. They were all my customers, clients and all that. And then I went to California and I became by the grace of God, I became a very successful financial planner, financial advisor. Was very well known in the community, did extremely well, became very wealthy. And then I had the car accident. I was driving, actually, I had a 560 SL, the Mercedes sports car. I was driving that with my secretary, and I wasn't driving fast or anything. I was driving slow. It was in the suburbs, and a car came in front of me, hit, whatever.
Yes. And you accelerated instead of braking.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, tell me, you said several miracles happened in that first 3 weeks that you were at the ashram. Tell me a miracle that impressed you. Yes.
Okay. All right. This is very interesting. It's a different kind of miracle. First of all, of course, I saw Sai Baba materializing, the holy ash and all kinds of things. To me, the biggest miracle that happened was the love. Because when, he didn't look at me for the first 15 days. And I was like, well, I've been called and he's not even looking at me. It was time for introspection. A lot of weeding, and he was waiting to do all that. And then I decided that I'm going to fast and I'm not going to move from the spot till he looks at me at least once before going back. And my sister and I, we sat, and it rained and we were cold. We didn't eat. We were hungry for like 8 hours, didn't move from that spot. And then in the evening when he came straight to my sister and me, and he stood there and he just bent his head and he just looked. And the love, it was the love of 1,000 mothers. One mother's love, but this was 1,000 mothers. It was like a shower. We got wet in the rain in the day, but then the shower of love was just it was just love. And I was transported into a completely different dimension. It was like touching source. It was amazing, and the tears were falling. So to me, that is the biggest miracle. But, there were other miracles, like one of the things my book is filled with miracles. I mean, filled with miracles. There are so many that I can't even think of which one to tell you. But one of the things that happened, which is kind of like a miracle, is on the last day, I wanted to go to the main ashram, which is where he had called me, because this was in Bangalore. And basically, I had to change my train tickets. So I went to the railway station to change the tickets, and I only had 4 hours. And by the time I got there, it was like it got delayed 3 hours, this, that. And again, I wasn't eating. I was just praying. And I was just taking Sai Baba's name for almost like 4 hours continuous. And so basically, he, and by the time I got the tickets and I was returning, I was already 2 or 3 hours late. 4 hours late, actually. The buses were supposed to come at 12 o'clock, and it was already, I reached there at 4, and I was really thought, oh, they've all gone, and there's no way I can get to Puttaparthi now. My sister's really disappointed. And as soon as I entered the ashram gates, I saw all the students sitting there and like, what happened? And they said the buses are delayed. And literally 5 minutes after I entered the gates, the buses landed up. So it was almost as if he had delayed them for me to get back and to get, to the place. So this is like, these are minor things, but one of the very big miracles that I won't go into detail, I'll share since you're asking, was in 1987, because that will be a little part of the story, is when he came to me in a dream, and he said to me, 6 days, he gave me a thing. I had attended a wedding of a family here in California. And so he said, 6 days after the wedding, I will come and take your brother away. And I was like, do you have to? He said, yes. I said, will you be with him? Yes. Will you be with me? Yes. And then he spoke a little more. And then as he was leaving in the vision, a dream, he kind of turned over his shoulder and he said to me, he says, by the time you get there, he will be gone. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I had brought my younger brother at the age of 13 and a half to the US, and he was staying with me. So, and he was 19 at that time, he was last year of school, 18 or something he was. So I thought it was that brother, and I thought he was going to die in 6 days. And so, after 4 days, I finally told him. I couldn't tell him, and I finally told him. He said, oh my God, you're telling me now? I only have 2 days to live. And I said, well, whatever. So then that very same day, my sister from India called me, and she said that my father had a heart attack. He had diabetes, and he was in the hospital, but he was perfectly okay, and he was going to be coming back home in a day or two. So all this was happening. And then the day after that, while I was sitting and doing my prayers, Sai Baba said in my head, go to India, it's your father. So I said, what are you? I was so upset with him. I said, why did you tell me it was my brother? He says, because in a past life, he was your brother. One of the things. The other thing, he says, when you came to me, you looked at me as your parent. So he kind of was like a brother to you. And then he said, and remember, do you remember? I told you that by the time you get there, he will be gone. So I had to confuse you. You're not meant to be there at that time. Go now. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm trying to, and then I called India. I told my sister, my younger sister, that, Papa is going to die tomorrow. And she says, what do you mean? She's crying. How can you say that? I said, look, Sai Baba came to me in the dream and told me he's going to die tomorrow. So please, do the last things, give him any papers he has to sign, get properties and whatever you want to do, praise, give him prayers and all that, if he has a will or whatever. She said, no, she didn't believe me. So I spoke to her father-in-law. It's difficult for anyone to believe.
Sure.
So, I spoke to her father-in-law, who had a lot of respect and regard for me, and he believed what I said. And I said to him, Uncle Ji, he is going to die tomorrow. I don't know what time. So I have only one request for you. Can you please keep his body for me? Because, they would cremate it within a few hours. So he said, all right. Nothing will happen. But if it does, I give you my word. That was it. So I got a ticket on British Airways. One ticket I was able to get. It was Friday evening, I remember, and I got onto the plane and I told the air hostess, I said, please don't disturb me. And excuse me, if I want anything to eat or whatever, I'll ask. So she said, okay. So I went and sat on my seat. It was a window seat. And I, what do you call it? Put the tray down. I remember I put my hand on my tray and I put my head down. And for the next 3 hours, all I was doing was saying Sai Ram, which is a Sai Baba mantra, just his name, basically. I was just saying it for 3 hours. And because I knew that my father was going to be going sometime now, but I didn't know what time. And so I, about 3-4 hours later, I felt someone's hand at the back of my head, just kind of caressing my head. And I knew that was the hand of my father. I knew that hand. And I knew, okay, he's left. I knew he had left. Now, this may be hard for people to believe, but this is my experience. I saw it and I'm telling it as and how it happened. And so the tears started coming down my face. And that's when I raised my head. I knew my father had left. So I kind of looked out the window. It was dark outside. And all of a sudden, I see this flash of lightning. And in this flash of lightning, I see this big, huge, giant hand. And the hand had an orange sleeve. And in that hand was sitting my father.
Wow.
My father was sitting. I can still see him, one knee down, one knee up. He was sitting and he was looking like this. He was being shown me. And I could see him from a distance. And then the tears really fell. Because then I realized I wasn't crying for my father anymore because he was in the best hand possible.
Yes.
I was crying for the love of Sai Baba, that he had brought him to me. Wow. Because it was his hand and his sleeve. And the vision vanished because I would not have seen him otherwise. Because he had told me in the dream, I will go and get him. So he showed me, see, I went. Okay. When I reached London, I called my brother and my sister who were in California. They didn't have a green card that time, so they couldn't come. Only I could go. And so I said to them, what time did the call come? They said, how do you know? I said, because he came to me. I said, oh, he came here also. I said, what do you mean? She said, so my sister tells me, she said, Dhruv, my brother, when he heard the news, he just couldn't stop crying and crying and crying because he thought he was going to die. You see?
Yes, yes.
And so it was like, he was just a young boy. And the reason why he was crying more was because father's birthday had been about a week prior to his death, which was May 9th. And he had spoken to my father, and my father had been telling him to write to him. And so my brother was crying, saying, I promised I would write to him, and I didn't write. I wanted to tell him I love him. I didn't tell him I love him. I didn't tell him I love him. Now I can never tell him. He was crying and crying. So my sister said, don't worry. You write your letter now. Write your letter now and tell him you love him. Tell him whatever you want to tell him. And I promise you, Sai Baba will get it to him, Yes. And so he said, okay. And so with tears, he's writing his letter. And after he wrote the letter, they both, apparently, this is what they told me, they both sat in the altar. And there was an 8x10 picture of Sai Baba in the middle, and all the other, the full altar was there. And so there was a candle burning on one end of the 8x10, and they put the letter on the other end, and they started singing and praying and all that. And all of a sudden, the left side of the candle, it was a glass container, it just shattered. And the flame came out of the thingy, and instead of going towards the left where it had shattered, it actually it climbed over and went across the picture and burnt the letter. That's all it did.
Wow. It
just burnt the letter. It was like, oh my God. They said he came and received it. Then of course they put out the fire, but that's how he came there. When I reached India, and then they said to me that Paul uncle, that was my father-in-law, he called 3 hours ago and said that father had left. So that was the time his hand was on my head, and then he showed him to me in the sky. When I reached India, he had kept his body as promised. He had kept his body in the, on the slab of ice, is how they do it over there. And so everyone's asked, how do you know? How did you know? How did you know? I said, Sai Baba came and told me. So then, basically, to end this, the day after, when we went to the cremation ground, women are not allowed to go the next day to pick out the bones. We call them flowers. But I insisted because I knew I had to be there. And so I went and they allowed me. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, I mean, it's an amazing experience. It's amazing. It's amazing in both ways. It's like not good and bad, but it's like, I have no words, okay? You're sitting in this cremation ground where there's fires burning, okay? Fires burning rather.
Yes.
And I'm sitting in this huge 7 by 3 foot, space where there's all the ashes of, my father lying over there. And I'm sitting there and I say to my father, I say, now you know what's on the other side. Now you know the truth. I said, I want to know. I also want to know, but I don't want to know it the way you know it. Why? The way you have known it and how everybody knows it when you leave your body and you're gone. I said, I want to know it and in it now. So I did this very without thinking. I mean, I wasn't thinking. It was not even nothing conscious. Even my mindset was not in that frame, nothing. Something inside of me just made me go in there, and I picked up a handful of my father's ashes. I picked those up and I lifted my hand up and I was speaking as if to death, to the universe, to God, to myself, to the I am. I was speaking to that. And I made a vow. I said, with an intensity I didn't even know I had. I said, to know is to know, and I will know all there is to know in this lifetime, in this body. And I poured the ashes back. And then I was like, I don't know, something had come, and that was that. And then all of a sudden, I'm going through the ashes and I find this amazing looking bone. This bone is the Atlas bone. It actually looks like a human being sitting in meditation, just like you see the Buddha behind me.
Wow.
And I picked it up because it was so beautiful and it was white, pure white, like a brand new bone, delicate. I picked it up and I put it in the palm of my hands and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, it's just so beautiful. And I said, what is this? And the priest who was sitting there, he got very excited and he said, oh, you found the Atmaram. He called it the Atmaram. I asked, what is the Atmaram? Atma is another name for the soul, and Ram is another name for God. He says, this is the soul, this is spirit, where it resides in our body, apparently. So I said, but what does it mean? So he said that when we leave our body, and majority of people are not ready to go. They're afraid. There's so much fear and all kinds of things. They don't want to leave, and so there's a fight. There is a resistance, rather, And at that time, this body cage, this soul cage, the spirit cage breaks, and then the soul is freed. If an example of that, and it's right here. And if when they hang people, basically the rope is around the neck.
Mm-hmm.
When they tighten the rope, this is exactly where the spirit is. But you tighten it, that's where it exits from. Huh. It's kind of interesting. I thought about that later. But so then he said, so I said, but what does it really mean? He says, well, 75% of the time, you can't find it because it's such a delicate bone. It gets destroyed because of the resistance and it breaks. And maybe 20% of the time you find it, but it's a little broken and you can just about make out that here is that sacred space where spirit resided in the human physical body. And then he says, but maybe 5% of the time You can find it the way you have found it. It was almost brand new. I have a photograph of it. And there was just a little brown discoloring here because it was a heart attack, I think he died. And he says, and the reason why it is like this, because this person, your father, he says he was a very noble soul. And not only that, the most important thing, he left his body without a fight, without any resistance. He left very peacefully. And I was like, oh my God, of course, Sai Baba had gone there to get him. He must have shown him the light. And so there was nothing to fear. Because my father was not ready to go. He was only 59. He had his properties, he had his factories, he had his business, he had everything going. He was not ready. He would have fought and resisted. That cage would have broken big time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's like, to me, that's one of the big miracles. There are many. My entire book is filled with it. It is a book that it will blow your mind. It's like, how can this be possible? But it is. And the thing is even Christ coming on my forehead. Before going in for that MRI, I was talking to God and I said, God, and I said, I wonder what's in my head. He's going to be checking, but I'm thinking of you constantly all the time. So it's got to be you. But I said, I wish I could see you in my head. That was my request, a casual request before I went in for the MRI. And he showed himself. And then a week later, I saw other faces. In fact, for people who are, who have an affinity with the ascended masters, El Moria is in my head. You can see his face. It's very, very clear, and there are other, Ganesha, the Indian Hindu god, and Ganesha is there. Ganesha is there. There are others. So it's like, and it's not just me. See, he's in your head. He's in everyone's head. Divinity, all the different forms of divinity we carry within us because we are divine. We are divine. We carry. And in whatever form of divinity that we connect with, and that we, are born into, basically, the culture we're born into, and that we connect with, that is the divinity that, we live with. But I connect with all. See, I even studied world religion, and I'm ordained as an ecumenical minister also. So I believe in all the religions of the world because my religion is love. Because God is love. God is love. You are love. I am love. We are all that. If we can touch that love in each other, that is our religion. You see?
And Sai Baba was a channel for that. Same love that you felt when you had your near-death experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you speak of the love that you felt when you were going through that. Well, so then the wish that you had when you held your father's ashes came true in your near-death experience.
Yes, it was almost as if my subconscious invited it. Yeah. It invited it. See, we have to ask. Christ says, ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be opened. We have to ask. That choice God has given us. See, God will never impose upon us. He waits. God waits for us. He says, come, my child, I'm waiting for you. Come. But we have to ask. And for whatever reason, my consciousness, because I didn't ask with the conscious mind, really. Something deep inside of me moved me that day to ask. And it was granted. But when I had the NDE, there was no form. There was no Sai Baba. There was no Christ. There was no Buddha. There was nothing, nobody. Because God is only light. The forms we ascribe to God are what we choose to and what we love and what pleases us. And God comes to us. He's a mirror. God comes to us as and how we call him. If we see him as mother, he'll come as mother, even a relationship. He will come to us as a friend, as a mother, as father, as however we see him, he'll come to us. You see?
Yes.
Because he's in us. And so now I'll go to the NDE. So, I was driving, to Los Angeles from San Francisco for an appointment, actually. And I had my secretary sitting with me in my car. And basically, I was very tired. I went for an appointment, and then I went for a second appointment. And it was quite late at night going back to the hotel. I was exhausted, sleepy, tired, because it was a long drive from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And as I was driving back, it was in the suburbs. I was driving at normal speed, just like maybe 25, 30 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, I see these two boys. There's a car in my left lane, speeding up. It was night. It was maybe like 11:30 at night, and I was just going to the hotel. So these boys was kind of speeding up next to me, and I was like, fine. And then suddenly they came right in front of me. They came right in front of me, without any warning, without any signal or anything. And there happened to be a stop sign a little further up, and they just came in front of me and they stopped at the stop sign. And it was so abrupt, and there wasn't much space left between my car and them. And I was so exhausted, I kind of became alert all of a sudden, and I pressed the brake to stop the car. But I didn't realize that I hadn't pressed the brake. It was actually the accelerator in my tired, exhausted state. And that car is a 560 SL Mercedes sports car, which goes from 0 to 60 within seconds. And so you can imagine, I pressed it full throttle, I would say, because I thought I was pressing the brake, and that was it. It was just a huge bang. The car hit the car in front. And the next thing I knew, and here's the thing, I was not wearing a seatbelt. This was in 1994 when seatbelts were not mandatory, and I wasn't wearing it. And so the only thing I remember at that moment was my body lifting. I just remembered my body lifting and hitting something hitting something. Probably my head must have hit the windshield, and I blanked out. And the next moment, second, whatever you want to call it, there was a void. I was in the void. No, sorry. Basically, what I saw myself inside my body. I was in this river, I would say a river of light. And I was like, where am I? And this river of light was moving, and I was moving inside this river of light. And I realized I was this spark in this river, and this river was inside my body. This river of light was inside my body, and I was moving. And I was moving the interesting thing is, I was moving at very, very high speed. And at the same time, I was moving very, very slowly. It was like there's no sense of duality. High speed and slow speed was the same. And very strange. And I was witnessing this thing happening as well as experiencing it. Again, no duality. And it was perfectly natural and normal. And so here I am moving. And as I'm moving, I'm just moving. And I see myself kind of moving upwards, almost like towards my head. And I'm moving. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm kind of, I reach the top of my head. And the thought that comes in my head is, oh, I'm going. And I'm out of my head. I come out of my head. And all of a sudden, I'm not in the light anymore. There's this amazing void. It's a darkness. It's a darkness, but I'm not afraid. It's very comforting. It's a very comforting darkness, but it's not like a dark darkness. It's like a warmth. It's just dark. It's the void, and it's the silence. It's silent, and yet there was life. It was alive, and I was a little bit confused. I'm like, where am I? What's going on? And as I'm kind of trying to figure out where I am and what's going on, I look at myself, thinking I'm the body, and I see that there is no body. There is no body, but I'm thinking I'm here, but I'm not, and I am, you see. And at that moment, just as I was kind of wondering what's going on, I saw in the distance this amazing, like like a light shining, and this thing coming towards me. And as it came closer and closer, I saw it looked like a vessel of sorts. It was like, if you cut if I may say so, if you cut a papaya in half, it's like a boat. It's like a canoe or a boat, something like that.
Yes.
And it was kind of coming towards me. It had an amazing golden hue. It was golden, and inside the center of it, I could see like there was this brilliant light coming from the center of it. And as it came closer and closer to me, it was almost like it was a bed or a mattress of light, which was shining like a million diamonds. It was just sparkling, this bed. You can just imagine this golden boat, and it was not golden like a gaudy gold. It was just a beautiful golden halo, like a haloish light, and this white thing, and it's coming closer and closer and closer. And I'm just looking at it, and it's just so magnificent. And as it comes kind of really close to me, I see that there's a figure, there's a human body lying on its back. And this human body is also wearing the same colored, like this goldenish, you may call it like a robe or a wrap or some kind of garment, but a loose garment. And that is also like literally glowing. And as it comes closer, I look at this figure and I get the shock of my life. I look at it and I say, oh my God, that's me. It was me. It was my body. And as I saw that, at that moment, the thought came in my head, oh my God, I'm dead. I am dead. That's my body. It's a dead body. It's my dead body. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I wasn't afraid. I was not afraid at all. It was just the warmth and the comfort. It was very comforting. And then I realized that it was this vessel, this boat, this whatever you want to call it, had come to pick me up, me in spirit form. And I kind of, I can't say I climbed into it, but next thing I knew, I was on the boat. And suddenly, this body I saw, and again, seeing and experiencing, I saw as soon as I got on the boat kind of tilted upwards. It tilted upwards like that. And the feet of the body were up, and the head was down. So I know that when we leave, in whatever way we go up by our feet, and there are traditions where they tie the feet or whatever. So the feet were up, and so next second, I kind of just shot this vessel just went through like a rocket. It just went through the darkness, literally tearing through the darkness. And the next second, next moment, what I see is there is no darkness, but there's this brilliance. All of a sudden, I'm in this amazing brilliance, this light, this brilliance. And I'm just surrounded by this amazing feeling that I couldn't really put myself around. Like, I just loved it, but I didn't know what it was. And next moment, second, whatever, it was as if I was standing on a non-existent cloud. And I was almost like jumping, if I may say so, not a body, but I could feel a jumping, I can't say sensation, but I was like a child is jumping. And I kept saying to myself, I know this place. I know this place. I've been here before. It's like, I made it. I made it. It was like a sense of, I won't say achievement, but it was like, oh my God, I made it. I made it. I made it back. I knew what it was. I knew where I was. And I was thrilled that I had made it back. That moment, I felt the presence. I felt the presence. I felt the presence of love. It was all encompassing, embracing, welcoming me back, And it was just like, it was an amazing feeling. It was like, I'm home, I'm back home, And the next moment, I didn't want to go anywhere. And I was like, okay, I'm back. And so I wanted to say goodbye to where I had come from. And so I kind of looked over this non-existent shoulder of mine. I saw myself as just this electric beam of light. We're just electricity. So I'm this electric beam or spark or whatever, just like sizzling. And I look over this non-existent shoulder for this world, the earth where I'd come from, to say bye-bye to it. And I have 360-degree vision. I can see everywhere, but there is no world. There is no world. There is no earth. There is no galaxy. There is nothing, nothing except the brilliance. And I'm like, where did it go? Where did it go? And the universe, it was almost as if I was answering myself, because there is no other over there. And the answer that came was that the world is an illusion. I said, how can it be an illusion? It was so real, I experienced it. And then I was told that was all mind created. It was my own mind created world that I created from my own thought, and I lived it. And now I was back home. And that from the space that I am, I can create any world I want. You and we have created our world. We create our world, and then we live it. And then we come back home and say, aha. And then there is an assessment, how we did, what we did, and then, all that. And then we want to go back and do it better. So that's how the game of life and the thing keeps going on and on. So anyway, so this is what happened at that time. And I realized what it was. And then there was no attachment to it. There was no attachment to even, family or people over there or the world or nothing. And the reason for that was because I knew at that time that it's non-existent. It is all my own world, my own mind, thought created situation. And I can create it again if I want to, in the same way or different. And then also, of course, I realized even in the darkness, when I was in the void and when in the light, that even though I was dead, I was alive. I was me. I was alive. So we never die. We never die. We are eternal. We cannot die. So there's no reason to fear death. You see, death is just a doorway for us to come back home and then reassess and then come back again. It's like going on vacation, different vacations, and you come back home. So anyway, so while all this was happening, all of a sudden I see this amazing, incredible, I don't know what to call it, but I, of course, found a name for it later. But I saw my own spirit being, this electric light, all of a sudden, from the left side of it, these little atoms like bubbles were just kind of leaving the body, just going out. And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, what is happening? And as I see this thing going out from my left side, I see that from my right side, there are similar bubbles, but they are much finer. They're smaller, thinner, finer, like a very, very fine, high frequency. They were entering in from my right side. So it was as if I was being emptied. I was being emptied and I was being filled. So it was the transmutation that was happening. The Arti, the me that had died, was leaving the body, and it was dissolving and going into that nothingness, into that I won't say nothingness, into the light, into that love presence, into the God presence, into supreme consciousness, which is what it was. And as it's going more and more into that side, there is this other frequency entering into me, and I'm being rebirthed. I literally saw a transmutation happening. It's as if like being touched by the philosopher's stone. It's like I was dying and I was rebirthing. So there was one portion of me leaving and there was something else coming in. And it was like I can kind of see, as I was dying, I was merging and melding within and into supreme consciousness. And as this was happening, there were this information, this knowledge, this knowing. I call it the knowings. The knowings were literally pouring in from the top of my head. It was the knowings, the universal knowings and teachings were just pouring into my system, into this. It was like a computer being reprogrammed, refurbished, so with new parts, with new spiritual DNA, with whatever was happening, and this went on for a while, and the knowings kept coming in, and at that moment I experienced the total oneness with supreme consciousness. I was the I am that I am. I was the peace that passeth understanding. I was home. I was that original source that I and you and we all come from. That knowing was there. And at that time, it was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, while this is going on, it kind of suddenly, this whole exchange of atoms stopped. It stopped, and I saw that Arti was no more. It was like a caterpillar and the butterfly. It was as if there was a new rebirth. I was the phoenix rising from the ashes. I don't want to say the ashes of Arti, because Arti still lives in the body. And I was born from that little spark of her, and the reason why she couldn't fully dissolve is because of her vow to the universe, where she had said that she wanted to know all there is to know in this lifetime, in this body. So you see, this body, this lifetime had to continue, and this body had to continue with that knowing. So a little portion of her remains to experience that knowing that she has experienced, but it was almost as if Mira Sai and Arti had made an agreement, for this to happen, so she could experience it in this body and lifetime. But it was Mira Sai who came in to allow her, to give her that experience, And so basically the next moment or second, whatever you want to say, there's no time, there is timelessness. So the next, moment, all of a sudden I see there is this brilliance, in this white love presence. And again, it is love. It is God. It was God. God is love. God is love. Love is God. And we are love. We are that love. We are sparks of God. We say we are the children of God. So if we are children of God, we have the genes, if I may use that word, of God. And if God is love, then who and what are we? We too are love. That is who we are. And that is why we search for it when we come into the body. We're really searching for ourselves, But that later. So basically next minute, next second, I'm in this amazing, beautiful, supreme consciousness. I'm bathing in consciousness as consciousness. I'm home. I'm complete. I'm full. I'm happy. It is the highest consciousness. It's like we say Vaikuntha in Indian scripture. It was like reaching the ultimate, where you can just merge and melt, and then that's it, the journey's over. But at that moment, I see in this brilliance, I see this like a tube. I call it the umbilical cord. I call it the cosmic womb. It was like a huge umbilical cord, and it was like a beautiful pale brownish, color of this tube. And I can see outside it and I can see inside it. And that's the only color in this white brilliance. And I'm like, what is this? And as I look inside of it, I see this little fetus. It was like a human baby. It was a fetus of a human baby. And it was curled up like a fetus, head down, feet up. And I'm looking at it. And then all of a sudden, I said, oh no, I realized that's me. And I say, oh no, not again, no. And the universe, I can actually hear it now. This is loud. It's hearing, it's in me. And it says, you must go back. And I say, no, please. And it says, you have to do the work. And I had no choice. But of course, I must have agreed to it. And so the next moment, the next second, I see myself. I am in this fetus. I am the baby. And I am hurtling down or crossing dimensional barriers. And I'm thinking, where am I going? In which body? Where am I going? And all of a sudden, I am shown the entire Arti's life, because I don't know where I'm going and who I'm going. So I'm shown the entire life. And that's how my book starts with the NDE, and then Arti's life starts. So I'm shown all that. And then the next moment or the next second, I open eyes. I open human eyes. And I'm looking at a rear view mirror in a car, and I literally scream. And it's not a scream, it's almost like a cry. It's like the cry of a baby when the baby is born. They slap it and it kind of lets out a cry. So it was almost like a cry. It's a birth. And the sound like that came out because I saw that my entire these lower 4 teeth had come out of their sockets. The jaw from here had broken, and my teeth were lying on my tongue, and you can't speak. But the interesting thing was, I had, by the grace of God, I had brought back supreme consciousness with me, and there was no pain, zero pain. I could feel nothing, but I could see all around. I could see behind me, to my right, to my left, and I was just kind of fumbling around for a tissue or napkin, and I kind of just went back, and there was something at the back, and I wiped my mouth, and I tried to open the door. There's a 2-door car. So I tried to open the door, and it was jammed. It wouldn't open. And I kind of looked to my right, and I saw Arti's secretary, or the secretary, sitting, and thank God she had a seatbelt on, and she was kind of moaning and groaning. I think she had concussion. And so I leaned over, opened the door of the car, and I kind of climbed over her because I just wanted to get some air. And as I got out of the car, I came out into the night, and I actually felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I was like an alien standing there, and like okay, I'm just like almost like stepping on it for the first time, kind of. It was not new, but it was new. I don't know how else to explain it.
So how long after that, Mira, did you decide to renounce the successful life of Arti and go a spiritual path?
Okay, so when I came back, this was in '94 of July. This is when this happened, and I got the how should I say? God spoke to me, and I got the guidance and the thing to come to God and to be as a zero in wealth, zero in name, zero in family, and that was not easy because Arti had a big name, and I'm in Arti's body. I have part of Arti in me, but I am who I am. So it was not. So basically, I had to wrap up Arti's life, and the only thing I was a little concerned about was that, well, how am I going to eat? How am I going to live if I just walk away from everything? And so, but still, I put the so one day I had gone to church in San Francisco with some of my Sai Baba friends, and this was Cornerstone Church in San Francisco, and I had been okay. Before that, let me share a vision with you. You like this? I had a vision, and in this vision, I saw myself flying up as a soul. I was flying up, And as I was flying up, on my left-hand side, I saw another soul also flying up, but this was like it was not a soul. My soul was like just brilliant light, but this soul was a little bit. It didn't have that much light, and it was flying up slowly, and it was holding the carcass of a dead buffalo, and it was just slowly flying up. And I looked at this soul, and I said, let go, let go. I was telling the soul, let go, let go, let go of all these attachments. See, less luggage. Sai Baba always said, less luggage, easy travel. So I said, see, less luggage, easy travel. Let go of your attachments and everything. See, I have no attachments and I'm flying free. And then I realized that soul was also part of me. That attachment, that part of me that was not being able to let go of the house, especially the house and how I'm going to live, that part of me, that fear, And then all of a sudden I saw that it kind of, I had let go, and then I flew higher and higher. And as I flew higher, I saw there was this beautiful, beautiful castle in the sky, like we have in Disney World, the castle, and this castle was a beautiful crystal castle, shining, shimmering. It was magical. And the castle was kind of calling to me and saying, come on, it's you. And I knew it was my castle. I was waiting for me and calling me. And then I saw another castle and another one and another one. And I saw that each and every one of us has our castle. We all have our crystal, beautiful, shimmering castles which is our home. See? And so I reached there, and as I reached there, there was a voice that kind of came out, and it asked me, do you want this castle, or do you want the castle, the concrete brick and mortar castle that you have? And in my immediate answer at that time was, no, I want this castle. The brick and mortar is temporary. And the next second, I woke up, and that a few days later is when I went to Cornerstone Church with my friends. And interestingly, the pastor that day was speaking about, I don't know, something about attachment or this or that, something, I don't remember what it was. And I was like, okay, that's it. I made my decision. I had some paper I had a notebook or something with me in my purse. I took out this piece of paper and I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to God. Sitting in church, in Cornerstone Church in San Francisco, I wrote this letter to God. And I said, God, as of this moment, I lay myself in your hands. I surrender completely. Just like you took care of Francis of Assisi, you take care of me. I give up everything as of now. I wrote that letter and I placed it, sorry, I get a little emotional. So I placed it in the Bible and I, left it on the pew and I left. And then the very next day I put the house on the market. And God, he said, well, you're supposed to give it up. I thought, well, it was like a $3-4 million home. And of course I had, there was this apartment building and another property, etc. He had asked me to come to him as a zero. So I was really supposed to walk away. I was supposed to give it up. So he didn't even let that house get sold. And, so I won't go into the long story, etc. But he literally, the day I was walking away, the bank officer came and he gave me a check for $1,000 as goodwill. It's a long story, won't go to that. But so I walked away from everything. I walked away and I don't know if you want me to share the manna story, how I got over the fear of financial fear. But God was very kind and he helped me get over the fear of not having any finances because he wanted me to come as a zero. And I was born in a wealthy family. I lived with wealth, a self-made person. And then to go as a zero with not knowing where my next meal was going to come from was not going to be easy, but he made me strong. And he assured me that I will never go hungry. And he will always take care of my food, shelter, and clothing. And so help me God, he has taken very, very, very good care of me. Yes. He has kept his word.
We have limited time at this point,
Yes,
but I wonder if
know.
you could talk about parabhakti.
Ah, okay.
As some closing remarks.
Parabhakti. Parabhakti is the height of devotion. Since you say parabhakti, then let me quickly say that there are 3 ways to reach God. There is the bhakti yoga, the karma yoga, and the jnana yoga. If I may quickly say, jnana yoga is through knowledge, the scholarly, the reading of the scriptures and expounding those. And then there is the karma yoga with action and selfless action and service and all that. Then there is the bhakti yoga, which is pure love, devotion. And it's interesting that you ask me that, because that's what I believe in. That's what I live, because God is love. And bhakti is devotion to God. And that is the easiest and the fastest way to reach God and to reach our goal. Because when you are in a scholarly state and you go into the jnana, there's a danger of the ego rearing up, because you like, I know this and I know that, and the knowledge factor. So you have a very big fall, a spiritual fall. In karma yoga, also it's a long way, a lot of lifetimes you have to come to finish karma yoga. So the most beautiful, the most thing is bhakti yoga and parabhakti. Parabhakti is the ultimate. Parabhakti is when you reach that point when you are in oneness, when you're in oneness with God. And I would like to close this with this story of the musk deer, if I may.
Yes.
So basically, see, and this parabhakti is within us, because we are love, and to reach that ultimate, to reach God, we need to how should I put it? Okay, let me tell you the story of the musk deer. You'll get a better idea. So there is this deer in the Himalayas. There's this Himalayan deer. We call it the musk deer. But see, this deer, one day there was this deer, and he got this amazing fragrance coming from all around him. And he just kind of was totally mesmerized by it. And he wanted it badly. And so he went here and there, searching everywhere for it. He stopped eating. He just left his family. He went here, there, everywhere, searching, and he couldn't find it. He for years he's searching for it, and he couldn't find it. And one day, tired and hungry, he reached the edge of a cliff, and he didn't even realize it was the edge of a cliff, and he fell down. He fell from the edge of this cliff, and as he was falling, the front of his chest, this portion, it ripped, it got injured, it ripped. And as it ripped, suddenly he got the same fragrance that he had been searching for his entire life. And he realized, because this musk deer has this musk is in this pouch that hangs from under its neck. And so when this thing tore up open, he got the fragrance, and then he realized that, oh my God, this musk, this fragrance that he was searching for everywhere outside himself, his entire life, actually existed within him. You see?
Yes.
He realized that as he was falling down, but he got the fragrance. So what I'm trying to say here is that our entire life, we're searching for that love. We're searching for everything outside of us, whereas it exists inside of us. And that is why the other thing I want to quickly say is that in life, when we go to school, we go to college, we graduate, postgraduate, etc., we learn. What we're learning is job skills. These are job skills for the world, for us to live in the world. But you know what? We haven't learned life skills. To live in the world, even to do our job, we need life skills. Our school doesn't teach us life skills. So life skills we learn from spirituality. That is why spirituality is so important. Spirituality is spirit. We are spirit. We are not the body. And spirit is love. And when we go into that love, and when we aspire to be that love. You see, love is not outside of us. We have to become love. We have to be love. We look for love from other people. We ask for love. But you know what? Forget about asking. Give love. The more love you give, believe me, it multiplies. It'll come back to you 100 times. Don't ask for it. Just give it.
Yes.
Give it freely. It doesn't cost you anything. Just give love. It's easy. Just give love and you will get it back and you will reach that point of parabhakti. One of the things that I will be teaching, well, not teaching, what do I know? Everything is, is we don't know anything, frankly speaking. Whatever we know comes to us from the divine, and we have to be in gratitude. I live in gratitude. I live in gratitude. And believe me, gratitude brings grace. Gratitude brings grace. Grateful for the pain, grateful for the good, the bad, everything. Gratitude. You see, and so it will take us to parabhakti, and that is one of the things that I will be helping people reach is parabhakti. Is how to touch that love within you and become love. And as soon as you become love, you are the I am that I am. You are God. You are divine, because all there is love, love, and only love.
Mira Sai, thank you so much for sharing your profound NDE with us today, and especially the remarks you just made about love. Mira, tell folks how they can find your website and your book, and especially the audiobook version.
Okay, sure. My website, interestingly, it got deleted a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how it happened, so I'm putting it back together again. So you'll just see a few pages right now, but within a week or so, it'll be full and running. The name of the website is www.mirasaiauthor.com. That's MIRASAI, like my name, AUTHOR, mirasaiauthor.com. Mm-hmm. And the email that you can reach me at is, there are a bunch of them. There is my name, mirasai@gmail.com. There is also msai@mirasaiauthor.com on the website, and info@mirasaiauthor.com. And the audiobook will be on in the next couple of days, and you can just go there and you can hear it and download it if you wish to. And the book also, I'm getting it reprinted because it's out of stock right now. The book Ecstasy, it will be available shortly. But more important than even that is the autobiography that should be coming out hopefully by the end of this year. You will love it. It's a journey. It's an amazing journey. It's not my journey. It's our journey. It's your journey. You will bond with it. Mm-hmm. You will find a lot of deja vus over there. And so that's how it is. I don't know what else you want me to say.
I'm looking forward to your autobiography and all the miracles that we weren't able to cover in this brief show. Thank you again, Mira.
Just remember, you are a miracle. You are God's miracle.
If listeners would like to hear this show again, or any of our more than 490 archived ad-free NDE interviews, go to TalkZone's NDE Radio site and hit the Past Shows button, or go to our YouTube channel, NDE Radio with Lee Witting, where you can subscribe to and comment on the complete NDE Radio library. Be sure to check out our NDE Radio Facebook page. Just search NDE Radio with Lee Witting on your Facebook app. And listen again next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern at TalkZone for more NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting, saying thanks for listening.